The movie begins on Thanksgiving Day in Plymouth, Massachusetts, where we're introduced to two families. We meet the protagonist Jessica having dinner with her family, as her wealthy father announces that he's finally proposed to his fiancée, and she doesn't look happy about it. Jessica's dad is actually the owner of Right Mart, a popular store in town. Elsewhere, we meet the store manager having dinner with his family, but it's interrupted when he gets called in because Black Friday early sales are about to start. At the same time, Jessica ditches the annoying family dinner to go hang out with her friends. In the friend group, there's Bobby, Jessica's boyfriend who is also the handsome baseball star at their school. Then we have Gabby, Jessica's best friend, along with her own boyfriend Evan. And then we're also introduced to the third couple in the crew, Scuba and Yulia. All of a sudden, Evan suggests stopping by the store to get a new phone. They're supposed to see a movie later, but the guy is more interested in using his phone the whole time. A true gentleman. When they arrive at Right Mart later that evening, the place is packed. The desperate customers all want to be among the first 100 people to win free items on Thanksgiving. Since Jessica's dad owns the place, she helps her friend sneak in through a side door. Soon after, they taunt the crowd outside through the windows, only making them more angry. Unfortunately, the storefront doors are finally forced open by the customers, causing a stampede, grown adults behaving like savage animals just for a waffle iron. One security guard gets unalived in the process, which goes on to be the first of several deaths that night. The manager's wife also lost her life in the stampede. But what's far worse, Bobby's pitching hand gets broken. Pure chaos. Now, it's 1 year later, and Thanksgiving Day is here again. But everyone just pretends like the Right Mart tragedy never happened. Nobody was arrested, and no security footage was ever released. Basically, everyone just chose to ignore Evan's viral video from the previous year, except for a few people, like Jessica. At the local diner, Sheriff McDreamy and his new partner are given John Carver masks that weren't used due to the lockdown in 2020. Now that that's all over, they're just handing out the masks to customers for free. Elsewhere, we catch up with Bobby, who no longer plays since his hand was broken. Apparently, he couldn't take it, so he avoided Jessica till they broke up, and now she's dating a guy named Ryan. At the same diner, the group of friends is tagged in an Instagram post, inviting them to some creepy dinner, and the anonymous tagger knows exactly what happened to them last Thanksgiving. While the friends are getting worked up about this, we see an unknown figure in a John Carver mask vandalizing the real John Carver's house with an axe. According to legend, the real John Carver killed and marked pilgrims when he was alive. And now, it appears that someone in Plymouth wants to continue the mysterious murders that John Carver started. The first murder happens later that evening when Lizzie, the waitress at the diner, is unalived by the masked axeman. It just so happens that Lizzie was one of the desperate customers who started the stampede the year before. The masked man brutalizes her and then runs over her before splitting her in half. Afterward, he places her lower half on the top of the Right Mart supermarket, sending a scary message to everyone in the town. By morning, police officers arrive at the place to investigate. And this is about when Bobby finally decides to see Jessica after almost a year. He convinces her to sneak in and get her dad's hard drives so they can obtain the security footage from the stampede last year. And after watching it, they notice Ryan meeting with a suspicious figure. Not surprisingly, Bobby's return causes Jessica to break up with Ryan. And then the original group soon gets tagged in another post when the masked man makes his second attack. The second victim is the security guard from Right Mart who did nothing to stop the stampede during the tragedy a year before. It's been a year since, and now the masked man is on a mission. So he sneaks up on the security guard in the dark, and then deheads him. He places the head on a plate and then posts a picture of it, tagging the group of friends in his post. Shortly after this, the masked man strikes again, taking out 2 people at once. After receiving another scary message from John Carver, the group of friends come up with a plan to protect themselves. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out too well, because Evan and Gabby end up getting abducted by the masked man when they go to school for an assignment. After taking them hostage, he tricks Jessica into coming into a dark hallway using their phones, and that's where he chases her around the school before she manages to escape. The next day, Jessica speaks with the sheriff, who advises her to be careful about whom she can trust, which really hit her hard because she recalls that the masked man had a baseball bat, which suggests that Bobby might be the one under the mask. Considering the state of things, Yulia's father forces her to get packed so he can take her to Florida to keep her safe. But it's too late. The masked man has broken into her house and attacks her. Scuba and Jessica race to her home in an attempt to save her with a weapon in hand, but they fail when the weapon gets jammed, which eventually leads Yulia being thrown onto a table saw and disemboweled. With Yulia not alive, Jessica and the others become desperate for revenge. So, they come up with another plan to bait the masked man during the Thanksgiving parade. Unfortunately, our villain changes outfits and disguises himself in a clown suit. And in true Thanksgiving spirit, he chops the head of a turkey off, leading to mass chaos amongst the crowd. After that, he hunts down Jessica, Bobby, and Scuba. He catches them by driving a pole into the cab driver's head, shooting darts into them. He takes them back to his hideout, which is the same dining room he's been posting and tagging them from. John Carver ties them up in chairs before revealing that he already kidnapped Jessica's stepmom Kathleen a long time ago. As a seasoned chef, he had been seasoning and garnishing her up, with the intention of serving her as the Thanksgiving turkey. Thankfully, Kathleen manages to escape before he can cut her open. He finds the cheerleader chilling out in the fridge and kinda just leaves her there. Kathleen then makes a run for it, but he eventually catches her on the lawn before dragging her back into his lair with a pitchfork. After this, he throws her into an industrial oven to finally cook her alive, which makes everyone wonder what Kathleen ever did, since it's been established that he's attacking only those who had something to do with the Wright Mart tragedy. Apparently, she was the one who helped Jessica's dad get rid of the tapes from the Wright Mart security cameras, and this is something that John Carver didn't like at all. We learned that John Carver is streaming the dinner, announcing that it's going to be even bigger and more famous than the first one over 400 years ago. He bashes Evan's head all of a sudden before forcing Jessica's dad to eat the now cooked flesh of Kathleen. While that's happening, Jessica manages to cut herself free using the knife that McCarthy gave her earlier. She also helps Scuba get free before they finally run out of the secret lair. Outside, Jessica suddenly finds Sheriff Eric lying unconscious on the street, so she checks on him to see if he's okay. Surprisingly, when he wakes up, he claims that Bobby was the one who knocked him out. And just like that, Bobby becomes suspect number one, so everyone in town is out for him. Meanwhile, Jessica follows Eric back to the station, and that's when she suddenly notices the strange plant stuck to his shoe. It turns out that it's the same plant that was all over the forest she ran through to escape from John Carver. All of a sudden, everything starts to make sense to Jessica. The subtle clues go all the way back to the first scene of the movie, where Eric walked up to Wright Mart's manager's house to have dinner with the family. It turns out that Eric was actually having an affair with the manager, Mitch's wife, and she was even planning to leave Mitch after Thanksgiving because she was already pregnant with Eric's baby. Unfortunately, that never happened since the manager's wife and his unborn baby were killed in the stampede at Wright Mart 1 year ago. After that tragic event, the sheriff was so devastated that he began seeking vengeance on all the people who were complicit and responsible for the Wright Mart Black Friday tragedy. With this revealed, the mysterious murders that have been going on for the past few weeks start to make a lot more sense. Eric's waiting until the next Thanksgiving to start his killing spree so that he can remind the people of Plymouth, Massachusetts what happened last Thanksgiving, since everyone just pretended like nothing ever happened at Wright Mart. We also learned that Eric drugged Bobby during the live stream, but the teenager managed to knock the sheriff out. Jessica quietly tries to leave, but he suspects that she's onto him and spills the beans before pouncing on her. Luckily, Bobby arrives to save her. They run away, and then she turns on a turkey balloon filled with flammable gas to block the sheriff, before attempting to finally escape in Bobby's tow truck. However, Sheriff Eric isn't ready to give up just yet, so he ties the truck's tow cable to a pillar. At this point, their attempts to escape are looking bleak, So Jessica grabs a prop musket and uses the locket from her mother left behind as ammunition. She shoots at the turkey balloon filled with flammable gas, which causes a huge explosion that blows everything to the ground. Bobby and Jessica make it out by the skin of their teeth, and when the fire department arrives at the scene, of course they confirm that no bodies were found because of how intense the flames were. The story comes to a close here, but everyone is left wondering if the masked man is really dead.